Hey, and welcome back. Today we're going to be building another MLB betting model, but rather than focusing on the props like we did in the last one, we're going to be taking a look at the probability that one particular team wins over another, as well as the probability that they go over or under a run line. And this is what we'll have at the end, where it's a matrix of the scores, so we can also take a look at the chance of an exact score. So as an example, this cell with 4.44%, that would be the likelihood of the Cubs scoring 5 and the Rockies scoring 2. So without further ado, let's make a new sheet and get to it. So firstly, I'm going to rename this sheet down here to data, and then I'm going to just paste in the list of all the teams, their 3-letter abbreviations, and we need to get the link to their schedule and results page on Baseball Reference. So I'm going to type this out so you can see how the smart fill can work for us. So it's going to be https://www.baseball-reference.com/teams/ the 3-letter abbreviation of the team, ARI in this instance, /2024-schedule-scores.shtml. We're going to begin typing that here, and then it's just going to fill in what the last one that we said was, but what we want to do is backspace ARI and put ATL. And then when we begin typing on this one, it should, say, hey, I know what you're doing. Do you want me to do that for you? And indeed, I do want you to do that for me. Thank you, Google. So now we need to make another sheet, and I'm going to rename this sheet Game. And we're going to start probably in D3 here, and we're going to start by typing 0, 1, 2, 3. And we want to select that and drag this, and it'll fill these numbers out for us. We want to do that to 15, and we want to do that to 15 the other direction as well. So we're going to say 0, 1, 2, 3, a couple more there. And what I also would like to do while we're here is resize these columns. So I'm going to select all these columns, right-click, resize, and we're going to do 50 so that we can fit it all on the page and it'll look nice. Now we need to create the drop-down for the teams. So I'm going to select this cell at the top here. I'm going to say data validation, add a rule, create a drop-down from a range, click this box here to select our range. Go over to our data tab and select all the teams. Okay. Scroll all the way down, and under advanced options, I'm going to choose the arrow display chip. I think it looks better. We've been down this road before. And I'm going to copy that cell, and we're going to paste it on the left side. So now we've got both of our teams. So now we need to go back to the data sheet, and I'm going to scroll down here, and we'll do this on A50. We're going to say equals import HTML, and we're going to say VLOOKUP. We're going to go back over here and click the first team here. Then we're going to select the range we're looking up in. In that case, it is here. The second index, number 2 for the index, and 0 for is sorted, so we can find an exact match. This is a table, and it is the first table in the page. And since this is the first time to import HTML in this sheet, we're going to have to click Allow Access. So there's the first team. And I'm just going to copy that, and we'll scroll all the way down to maybe 250, but I want to pop back over to the game sheet and see what cell this is in. So this is in B9, is the other team. So we're going to paste this in here, We're going to change this to B9 so we can grab the other team. Now we need to make yet another sheet, so many sheets, and we're going to rename this to AVG for average, and we're going to calculate, well, first in B1 we'll say equals this team, and then in C1 we'll say equals the other team. But now we're going to calculate what is called the quartile of the data set. So we want to get the first and third quartile of the data set. And basically what we're doing is we want to get the average number of runs that each team scored, but we want to make an exception for extremely high values or extremely low values. So if a team averages maybe 5 runs per game, but one game they went crazy and scored 20 runs, that would probably be an extremely high value, and we don't want to include that when we're calculating because their average runs maybe 4.5 without including that in our sample. So on the left side here, we're going to label Q1, Q3, low, high, and adjusted average. So for Q1, we're going to say equals quartile. We're going back to the data tab, and we're going to select this is the R column, which is the run column, and we're going to put a comma, and quartile number is 1. This is the first quartile. We're going to hit enter and copy that. Hit enter again here and paste that, but we're going to change that to the third quartile. And then we're going to do the same thing for the other team. Quartile, whoops. Select this one. We'll go down to, I don't know, maybe about here. That's fine. 1. I'm going to select all that and copy it. Paste that in there again, and then quartile 3. And now to calculate the low and the high. For the low, it is equals the quartile 1 value minus parentheses 1.5 times parentheses quartile 3 value minus quartile 1 value, and then 2 parentheses to close it. And then we're going to copy that and paste it here. And then for the high value, that's going to be equals the quartile 3 value plus parentheses 1.5 times parentheses the quartile 3 value minus the quartile 1 value, and then 2 parentheses again to close it. So as you can see, for the low, it is negative, and obviously you can't score less than 0 runs. Since baseball is a relatively low-scoring game, you don't necessarily need to account for the low. You only need to account for the high. However, for learning purposes, for if you wanted to apply this to basketball or something where there's more points scored on average, you would definitely want to take into consideration the low as well. And so we're going to do that for this just for learning purposes. So now to calculate the adjusted average, we're going to say equals if, I'm going to start this at row 10 here just to give us some space. Equals if, we're going to go back to our data tab, and we're going to select the top row here, and we're going to say if that is greater than the low value, comma, if that is less than the high value, then we want it to be equal to that particular cell. Now we need to lock, we need to lock that guy, and we need to lock this guy. We need to lock the two references to the low and the high value. You do that by putting a $sign in front of both the letter and the number for the cell. And so that way when we drag it down, it's not going to move the reference to this cell. And so we can go ahead and just drag that guy, drag him to maybe 200. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to say if, scroll to the next team here, if this guy is greater than this, comma, if he is also less than this, then we want the value to be that. Once again, make sure to lock these, and you can do that also by just clicking or putting your cursor, like selecting that particular cell and hitting F4, and that'll lock them. And we want to drag that guy down as well. Beautiful. And now so we can come into these cells and we can say equals average, and we can select. You might be wondering why I'm selecting empty cells here. They currently are empty, but the data set that we are grabbing from Baseball Reference includes future games as well. So we want to make sure that in the future, those values, when they are added, will be included, and we don't have to update every week or every day. So, and actually don't need to type that. We can just copy this and paste it here. Fantastic. Now we're going to make a new sheet, and we're going to call this Poisson. And we need to, once again, get a reference to whatever teams we have selected. So we're going to say equals that team. And then we're going to come over a few, and we're going to say equals the other team. Then we need to type again 0, 1, 2, 3 and bring that down to 15. One too many. And now we need to get the Poisson distribution for each of these teams. So we're going to say equals Poisson.dist. X is going to be this one right here. Our mean is going to be the average that we just calculated. And then we're going to set this to true so that it is cumulative. Now, I want to also lock the A for the reference to the 0 on that page. And then we want to lock both the B and the 6 here, or whatever the cell is that you're in, but you want to lock both the letter and the number for the reference to your average. And then we can drag this down, change it to a %, and we're going to do the same thing for the other team. Equals Poisson.dist, select the X value, back over to average, select that, and true. Lock the reference, and then do the same thing here. Alrighty, so next we need to calculate, or not necessarily calculate, but predict using random the chance that a particular team scores a particular run value. So firstly, we need to type equals rand, and we don't want to put anything as a value there. We're just going to hit enter, and that'll give us a value between 0 and 1 as a decimal. So I'm going to copy that cell, and then we're going to scroll all the way down. I'm going to scroll down to, we started on 20, so I'm going to scroll down to 520. That's going to give us 500 random values. So if we shift and click to select them all, and then say Control V, and just paste them all. And then we can just copy that and paste it over here. So now we want to say, this is kind of a lengthy one, but we want to say equals if this is less than this, then the value is going to be this. And we're going to do this all the way down. If this is less than this, the value equals this. If this is less than this, value equals this. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just do this for both of these guys, and we'll cut and come back because it's going to take a minute. But do remember to lock your references to all of these cells up here. Do not lock this one, but lock all the references to these cells up here. But I'm going to go ahead and cut, and we'll come back when I've got it all finished. Alrighty, we're back, and that is done. Next thing that we need to do is concatenate these scores. And so I'm going to say, I'm just going to label the top of this column here concat. And we're going to say equals if this is not equal to this. In other words, if it is not a tie game, then we're going to concatenate this, put a hyphen in between, and that score. Otherwise, it will display as false. And then we're going to just let that autofill. We now want to get the unique score. And you'll notice these are updating every time I do something here. So when I update the sheet, the scores will change. And so now we need to type equals unique. We're just going to select this whole range here, all the way down. There we are. And then we want to get a count on all of those. Once again, I'm just bolding this and center it. And we want to say equals if this is not equal to false, then we want to count if. We want to select our range here. It's the range to count from, and then we want to select the cell that we're counting. And then we're going to just drag that all the way down as well. If you double click the little blue circles, or the blue circle there, it'll fill it out. And I do want to just drag this down a bit farther though. We'll just go ahead and drag them all the way. Oops, come on, past him. All right. Alrighty, so now we've got our count. Now we want to calculate the percentage chance, or the probability that this particular score occurs within the times that we simulated. So we're going to say chance at the top here, bolden that, and then we're going to say that this equals this divided by the sum of this. And we want to make sure that we lock these guys here. Drag this all the way down. I keep overshooting. There we go. Alrighty, and then we're going to change this to a percentage, this whole column. Looks right. Alrighty. Now we want to pop back over to our game sheet, and we want to create our drop-down box for the line. So I'm just going to type line here, so we've got a little label for it. Then next to it, we're going to do data validation, add a rule, and we're going to do a drop-down. I'm going to add a few here. We'll do between 7 and 10.5 runs. You can always update it later if you need to. So 9.5, let's add another 2. So we'll do 10 and 10.5. Also want to change this to the arrow. And then we're going to pop, well, we're going to put a little number in here, but we're going to pop back over to our Poisson sheet, and we're going to calculate the sum of the runs here. So once again, bold and center, and we're going to say equals if this is not equal to this. So once again, if it's not a tie game, then we want to get the sum of that guy and this guy. Otherwise, we want to say false. And just double click the circle there so we can fill him all the way down. Beautiful. And then we want to tally the over and the unders. So I'm going to say over and under here, bolden those and center them. And for the over, we're going to say equals if is number this cell, and if it is greater than the line that we selected, we're going to place a 1. Otherwise, that value will be a 0. We want to make sure that we also lock the reference to our line up here. And then double click that guy just to fill him out all the way. And then we're going to do the same thing here. Is number this. Then we're going to say if the sum is less than this guy, then it's going to be a 1. Otherwise, it's going to be a 0. And once again, lock that reference. Double click the little ball there to expand it all the way. So now we need to go back to our game sheet, and we need to calculate what the over-under percentage would be. So we're going to need first the total games, and then we can put the over and the under. So for the total games, we're going to say that is the sum of these two columns here. And so we simulated 500, and out of those, only 386 are not ties. And then what we want to do is, for the over, we want to say that equals the sum of this column divided by the total games. And then we're going to do the same thing here, equals sum of the under column divided by total games. And then we can change those, change these guys to percentages. Alrighty, now we have this guy left to fill out, so follow along because it's going to be kind of a lengthy bit here. So we're going to say equals if, and then count if. We're going to pop over here, and we are going to select this column for the unique column. We're going to say quote equals another quote and, the and sign, concatenate. Back over to the game here, the game tab. Concatenate this comma, put a hyphen, and this guy. Before we get ahead of ourselves, let me lock the reference here. And then we need to lock the reference here. And then VLOOKUP, concatenate, this guy, this guy. And once again, let me just go ahead and lock these. And then we're going to go back to this tab. Oops. And of course it did that. Thank you. Just, there we go. Back over here, we'll select these three. We'll select the unique, the count, and the chance. We want the third one. We want the percentage chance. 0. And then 0 parenthesis right there to close it off. I also want to lock these references. Now we can just drag this guy over and drag him down. And there we go. Now I want to put some conditional formatting on here just to make it look more pretty. So we're going to go to the color scale. I'm going to select this. I'm going to do white and green, and then I want to change the midpoint to the 95th percentile. Hit done. And then we've only got one more thing, and that is to actually display the percentage for each team to win. So we're going to do this team first. We're going to select the cell next to it, or say equals sum, and we're just going to select all of the cells where within this matrix they would win. And then we're going to do the same thing for the other team going vertically. So just add all these guys up. Alrighty, so there we have it. We've got 52% here for Cincinnati, 47% here for Boston. Just going to go ahead and make these a little more pretty, I suppose. But there you go. I mean, we've got the line percentage. You can adjust that to whatever it is. We've got the teams here that you can change, obviously. The only thing I would recommend is, instead of using 500 as we used here for our sample size, I would use a much larger number. Personally, I use 10,000. That does take a little bit longer to load things, though. But you get a much more accurate snapshot of what the game's going to look like, because as you can see, if I refresh the sheet here by just selecting an empty cell and hitting delete, that 52% changes to 55% for them, 51%. So I mean, we're kind of hovering 51% again. We're hovering about at the same value, but it's not as precise as using more. So, but anyway, there you go. Let me know what you guys think of that. Drop a comment below if you want, and I'll send you a link to a completed sheet. Thanks for watching, y'all. See you in the next one.